Yokoya is a young man who hires a mysterious young woman to be the maid for his family. And the maid seems entirely unsuitable for managing the household, but that's because her previous job was as a professional assassin. The story begins with a boy getting out of bed when he hears the doorbell, but when he sees who it is, he realizes it's a woman dressed as a maid. She asked him to hire her as his maid, and that's how a dubious maid appeared at Hitayoshi's house. He let her in but had no idea why the girl was there, thinking she might be trying to sell something illegal. His plan was to stall a bit and then send her away, but when he asked what kind of work she did, the woman replied that she assassinated traitors who challenged her master. She said she was there on the recommendation of her former boss, and upon hearing all this, Hitoyoshi realized he needed to send her away as soon as possible without making her angry. The boy wanted to know if her master had any connection to his family, and she replied that the protagonist was the grandson of the woman who lived as a guest in the house of the second son of the cousin of the wife of the heir of the master when he asked her specialty. The woman decided to demonstrate and with some knives showed how dangerous she was. This made him even more scared and trembling. He said that he didn't want her to kill anyone and that he couldn't hire her. She was sad but accepted it, and outside she didn't know what she would do. But shortly after, Hitoyoshi ran after her because of something the woman forgot. However, the boy was about to be run over by a truck, and because she didn't want him to go to an isekai, she saved him. The maid was embarrassed for never having saved someone that way, and when he returned the object, she tried to leave, but Hitoyoshi offered her a job to help him clean his house. However, the only thing she knew about was knives and killing, not cleaning but understanding. It was what he needed. She decided to try, though she was terrible at it. Thus, he decided to help her, and together they cleaned the living room, and since she couldn't cook, either Hitoyoshi sent her to bathe while he made the food. However, he was very nervous because it was the first time he was alone at home, with an older woman trying to help her improve her cooking skills. He gave her an easy task at first, cutting cabbage, and since she was great with a knife, she did very well. Hitoyoshi discovered that she always ate just to stay alive, so he decided to show her something really good. Furthermore, the maid did not have a name. She asked Aston to call her whatever he wanted, and since the boy was terrible at naming, he decided to continue calling her maid. She couldn't tell whether the food was good or bad, but somehow she knew it was all good, even more so when she tasted a special sauce in the middle of the night. The protagonist woke up crying because he had a dream he hadn't in a long time. Suddenly he felt hungry, but when he got to the kitchen he found the maid, and even though he was startled, she was just eating more sauce. Because of this, he prepared something for them to eat. And the maid asked if the boy had a nightmare because she heard something coming from his room and feared the possibility of an assassin attacking. However, in the end, she only found him with tears in his eyes calling for his mother. She also had a dream in which she encountered a giant pot of sauce that would never end. It was the first time she had dreamed of something that didn't involve assassination, and for the first time in her life, she wanted to keep dreaming. Therefore, she was sad to know he was having a nightmare, even more so because she didn't know how to console him. Hoshi said it was a common dream for him, where we see his mother leaving with another child. He said he had nightmares since he was little, and the only thing that made him sleep again was lying in his mother's lap. So she told him to lie in her lap and was extremely sad when he refused, because a voice returned in her head saying she was only good for killing. However, when the protagonist laid down, the voice disappeared, and she no longer wanted to let him go. Later, while they continued cleaning the house, they noticed a puppy was left at his door. So with a note in it, the person said they had bought the dog at a pet shop thinking it was a Pomeranian, but upon discovering it was a breed that grows very large. They decided to leave it at a rich person's house. The protagonist was very angry with the selfishness of this person, but accepted the dog because it was small and Hitoyoshi was afraid something might happen to the animal. However, the maid was serious, saying that even if it is small, if it wants to live, it will resist, no matter who or what crosses its path. Acting on its animal instinct, she said this because of her past, which makes her believe it's wrong to save a life just out of pity. So the protagonist didn't quite understand where she was going with this, but commented that she saved his life the other day and said that when a person sees a life in danger, it's just the human instinct that makes their body move before thinking, just like when the maid saved him. Hitoyoshi also said he understands how those left behind feel inside the house. The maid was acting strangely, and we discovered she is afraid of dogs, which is actually a trauma, because her mentor trained her using dogs to hunt her, trying to be helpful. She picked it up, but it seemed like she would die at any moment later. So they went for a checkup on the puppy and to buy some things for the animal as they were, leaving. The maid commented that the protagonist was very kind and that there was no one like him in her world. She didn't understand that even failing a lot, he forgave her and continued to treat her well, but it seemed she was not necessary for him. So unlike her past life, all her skills and things she knew were useless, so she feels a bit envious of the puppy because she wished she had met the protagonist like it did. Then maybe she would have known sooner how good this world can be and could also be useful to him. Suddenly, the dog started running and Hitoyoshi commented that he thought she just wanted to leave her old job and become a normal girl. So she understood that she should forget about her past life, and when the protagonist said she was a good girl, the maid remembered one of the only good memories she had later. She was striving to be a normal person until the dog scared her, but it was just hungry when the protagonist arrived. He thought the dog looked a lot like a mochi, so he decided to call it a mochi taro since the protagonist needed to prepare dinner. She decided to take care of the puppy and took her first step by petting. So then the maid understood there was no reason to be afraid of it. After dinner, the maid said she would also like to receive a name, but he didn't know her well enough to think of one so quickly. She didn't even know her birth date, just that it was a very cold winter. So thinking of snow, he asked if Yuki was a good name, but it reminded her of the past where a man called her Shu because she was a cold-blooded assassin when Hitoyoshi commented that he loved snow. She remembered another happy moment, and after talking a little more, she accepted and was happy to be called Yuki. The next day, the protagonist wanted to pierce one of his ears, so we asked Yuki to help, but she couldn't do it, thinking it was wrong to make a hole in his body right after that. A little girl rang the doorbell, but she was startled to see the maid. In reality, she was impressed that he had such a beautiful maid and was angry he hadn't told her. She is Hai, Hitoyoshi's younger sister, and lives with his mother, which Yuki did not understand why her name is Riko, and she was startled once more to discover her brother chose the maid's name, even more so to discover that Yuki was an assassin. However, she found all of this wonderful, so much so that she even wanted the maid's autograph, but unlike her beauty, her handwriting was not good at all. However, even without the best handwriting in the world, she can speak around 12 languages. This gave Riko an idea to use Yuki as the theme for her summer vacation research project. To start, she wanted to see Yuki's skills, so she stood with an apple on her head, which, even though it was dangerous, went without a hitch. After this and a few more questions, they went to the mall, and upon seeing a poster about the summer festival, the three decided to go together. They were having a lot of fun, especially when Yuki found a stall with that sauce. Suddenly we went out to buy some drinks, so alone, Hitoyoshi had ever been to a festival, and we see what she used to do on such days. The fireworks started, and it was the first time she looked directly at them, which made her happy on their way home. A motorcycle thief almost ran over Riko, but Yuki saved her, and when the maid saw Hitoyoshi angry about the situation, she decided not to let it end like that. So she began to chase the thief, and they followed her, afraid that something bad might happen with little difficulty. She stopped the thief, and when it seemed like she was going to finish him off, the protagonist asked her not to kill him. However, she wasn't going to do that, and when she looked at him, she said that being normal made her very hungry. Thus, they left and took Riko home on the way. They talked about school, which made Yuki want to go to one. Furthermore, with the holidays, ending classes began, and a friend of the protagonist showed up to talk about the rumor of a very beautiful maid being seen in town. Hitoyoshi knew who it was about, and to make matters worse, a new student was transferred. Yes, Yuki managed to enroll in the school and even used the same last name as the protagonist. She said she was Hai, Yoshi's cousin, and even got a place in front of him. He couldn't believe this was happening and found out it was all his sisters doing back home. He asked how they managed this, and Yuki said she transferred thanks to some underworld contacts, and that being cousins was Riko's idea. The next day, Yuki heard about a special bread sold at the school shop, which is rare and requires running to get one before it runs out. Moreover, since the bread has that sauce, she jumped out the window and started running across the school rooftop. In this way, she arrived before everyone else, but was sad to learn that only one was sold per person. However, even though she liked it a lot, she offered it to the protagonist, but he let her keep the bread she wanted. So much, and even so she gave half to him on another day, even after visiting her brother several times during the summer holidays, went to sleep over. She likes this so much because she always wanted to have an older sister, so she decided that her brother should marry Yuki. The girl believes that the maid loves Hitoyoshi and was already talking about their marriage later. The protagonist realized that, thanks to Riko, Yuki was having an easier time adapting to normal life, but his sister interrupted his thoughts by telling him to marry. Yuki Riko told the maid that this was the way for her to officially join the family, and when she made Hitoyoshi admit it wasn't a bad idea. She said it was now official during class. The protagonist was very sleepy because of his sister, so when he fell asleep, the teacher threw a piece of chalk at the boy and she cut it. But this was worse because it hit both of Hitoyoshi's eyes. Because of this, he went to the infirmary, but there was a new nurse at the school, a very beautiful woman named Nid. She asked about Yuki and laughed when he said she was his cousin. After checking his eyes, she locked the door and said she would examine the boy's entire body. The situation started to become alarmingly suggestive, but Yuki appeared and he ran behind her. The maid didn't like that at all and told Nita not to get close to him, making Hitoyoshi think it was jealousy. However, Yuki told him that the woman was an assassin, and we learned she intends to ruin the maid's happiness. Her real name is Grace, and her dream is to live on an island surrounded by handsome men. So to achieve this, she became an assassin and is about to get what she wants. She believes the key to achieving this is Yuki, because if she gets a maid head, she will have enough money to fulfill her dream. Due to what happened, Yuki started keeping watch over the protagonist while he slept, but he couldn't fall asleep because of this. Thus, she lay on the bed with him, but the situation got even worse. They talked about what was happening, and she felt bad for involving Hitoyoshi in this, but she promised she would protect him at all costs when she opened the window. Yuki smelled her favorite sauce, but this distracted her and the protagonist was captured by the enemy. Suddenly, they began speaking another language, and Yuki said that if the woman touched a single finger on Hitoyoshi, she would make her suffer to the point of wishing for death. Grace said she needed her to die, but she wouldn't win in a direct fight, so she would borrow the boy. Thus, she ordered Yuki to go to the school at 2 a.m. This made the maid return to being the assassin she was and thinking that the life she was living was just a foolish dream. Yuki decided that, after killing the woman and ensuring Hitoyoshi's safety, she would leave the country and return her life. As, however, she realized what she most desires is to have a happy life alongside the protagonist at school. Grace told Hitoyoshi that all of this was Yuki's fault, wanting the boy to turn against the maid, but he wouldn't do that. Instead, he trusted that Yuki would be able to protect him. It talked a bit more, and Grace mentioned that was a monster and perhaps the most ruthless assassin of all her code. Name was White Wolf, and she was part of a group of assassins called the Nine Sons of the Dragon, said to be behind all the major events in human history. So if she got one of their heads, it would improve her reputation and get her much better jobs. So the protagonist couldn't believe Yuki was so dangerous, and Grace said he was strange because no normal person could stay calm in this situation. So when the time came, Yuki appeared, and she was so strong, she could cut bullets while running, but there were landmines on the ground. However, that was nothing to the maid, and Grace began to badmouth her, commenting that the protagonist wouldn't be her friend if he knew everything the assassin had done. However, Yuki told her to shut up because she wanted to finish quickly as Hitoyoshi had class the next day. Thus, Grace got angry and some weapons started pointing at the protagonist's arms and legs. This didn't make Yuki hesitate, and she managed to use her knives to stop the bullets that would have hit the boy. Moreover, she broke the cell phone that controlled everything. So she defeated Grace, who tried to create a distraction to escape, saying she would never be able to be normal. However, Yuki revealed that she was no longer, so she wouldn't kill anyone anymore, nor let someone die because of her, and she will do her best to live as normally as possible. Thus, Grace understood that if Yuki wanted to kill her, she would have done it a long time ago, and on the way back home, the maid apologized to the protagonist and said she would disappear from his life if he wanted. However, he only asked her to teach him some self-defense techniques because he wants to be able to help her at least a little, which she was happy to accept back to regular life at school. Yuki is very good at sports, and meanwhile, Hitoyoshi was remembering everything that happened. Suddenly, a ball was going to hit him, but Grace protected him, which made him even more worried. She was still acting as Nita, and the other boys were envious of their closeness. Rewinding, a little, she switched roles to become a physical education teacher who is like an older sister to the protagonist. Basically, she found what was happening very amusing, so she decided to stay there. For a while, Grace decided to negotiate app. So in exchange for Yuki not doing anything to her and letting her stay there without hostility, she wouldn't do anything to harm them and would give them the school special bread for 3 months. With this, Yuki couldn't refuse, and with the situation resolved, we return to the present, where Grace is too close to the protagonist. She does this to see Yuki jealous and found it very funny to realize that Hitoyoshi didn't notice the maid liked him. So lunchtime, the maid was feeling bad because she let herself be carried away by her gangers and broke the net with a powerful serve. She also didn't understand why she got so upset upon seeing that, so he remembered what Grace said and began to realize that Yuki might be jealous back home. We see she was improving in her work as a maid and was very happy to see this happening as they needed to have dinner. They went to the store where they buy their favorite tonkadas, and the maid was amazed to see so much of her favorite sauce. He commented that he understood her feeling and told her about when he was little and saw a hero show. Furthermore, when she saw the skills of the elderly owners of the store, she was amazed because besides the old man being very good with a knife, they created the sauce. Thus, Yuki thanked them from the bottom of her heart, and after dinner, Hitoyoshi realized that it was the first time he saw Yuki so happy, making it even harder to believe she is an assassin. However, he researched the 9 Sons of the Dragon, but only found something about a Chinese legend and nothing about assassins with this. He thought it best not to comment on this subject because he understands how difficult it is to forget things that happened in the past. So even wanting to know more about Yuki, he thought it best to wait for her to tell him when she wants. As usual, the protagonist had that nightmare once more where his mother was crying and left with his sister, but even running after her. He never managed to reach her when he woke up. He was crying in Yuki's arms and she offered her lap for him to sleep. Suddenly his phone fell to the floor and the maid saw what the boy researched, so seeing how curious he was housed. She talked a little about it. She also doesn't know much about the group because basically she only followed her mentor's orders. Yuki said she saw only a few of them, but never talked to any and doesn't even know their names before she was desperate to stay alive, so she wasn't interested in other people. Her only concern was that she would be abandoned if she disappointed her mentor, and that's why she still isn't used to the life she has with the protagonist. However, whenever she sees his face, she remembers she is learning to be a normal girl and looks forward to when she is used to this daily life, because then she will accept she can be normal. Hitoyoshi also commented that when he looks at Yuki, he feels much happier, which is why he wanted to know more about her. So he thanked her for appearing in his life. With this, Yuki decided to tell the protagonist more about herself and why she likes offering her lab to him so much, which is because when she did, it was the first time she felt she was useful to him. So Hitoyoshi thanked her and shared the dream he had. Unlike the nightmare he always has when he follows the man Yuki, who appeared to rescue him like a heroine, unlike before, Yuki is doing much better with household chores and after a productive day, while she went out to buy some things and because of her maid outfit, people couldn't stop staring at her. Suddenly a little girl approached her. The girl thought Yuki was very beautiful and said she wanted to be like her in the future. Moreover, she wanted to know where the maid bought that outfit, but when the little girl mentioned that normal people didn't wear clothes like that, Yuki was shocked. So when she met the protagonist, she asked if maid clothes were abnormal. Thus, on Sunday, Hitoyoshi went out with her to buy new clothes, and on the way they ran into Riko, and Grace was also there with the group. They went to a store the little sister wanted, but the clothes were as strange as the maid uniform. Basically, she did it to take lots of pictures, and since Riko's choice wasn't successful, it was Grace's turn. However, she also didn't pick normal clothes, so as the two weren't taking it seriously, Hitoyoshi told them not to interfere with that. Yuki tried on various normal clothes and everything looked good on her. After buying the new clothes, they saw a store selling various Halloween costumes as they always celebrate together. Riko wanted to choose a costume right away and had a lot of fun doing so with Grace. Seeing a horror movie he liked was playing. The protagonist wanted to go to the cinema, but this place was a bit strange for Yuki as she used to eliminate her targets instead of watching movies. So they all went together, but the maid was scared of the zombies, which the others found very strange. So while they were returning home and eating crepes, a mysterious girl with pink hair was watching them, but a large man grabbed her arm, telling her to always stay alert. He is her older brother and planned to increase her training because of her lack of attention. While the protagonist was taking his sister home, Yuki was left alone, and looking at her reflection, she thought about her old maid outfit. When she had received it at home, she seemed a little sad and put on her uniform and thinking of being useful. She went to wash the clothes. Suddenly, it started to rain and the power went out in the house, hearing some strange noises because of the dog. She was scared because of the zombie she saw in the movie, even more so when the dog showed up all dirty. Luckily, she only destroyed his towel, and when Hitoyoshi arrived, he asked why she was wearing the maid outfit. Thus, Yuki explained that she was very happy buying the new clothes, but that maid outfit was an important gift she received from her master after he died. It was the only thing connecting her to him. We see that the man didn't force Yuki to kill, but as it was the only thing she knew how to do. She worked as an assassin, and it was that outfit that gave her the opportunity to be there. So even if it isn't normal, Yuki wants to continue wearing it. Therefore, Hoshi said that doing so wasn't strange because she was just wearing the clothes she wanted, which made her feel more at ease and happy. Moreover, when they talked about the dog's towel that was destroyed and might have the scent of his previous owners, Yuki commented that she understood the puppy's feelings, because the bell she wears is the only thing connecting her to her lost younger sister. With this, the protagonist was surprised because he had no idea. The maid also had a sister wanting to find out about Yuki's sister. The protagonist went to talk to Grace to get information, but he didn't like having to pay for the food, which he said was the payment for the information, even though she hadn't found anything. Moreover, we see that Grace loves Japanese food and found it offensive when she saw you putting that sauce on the ramen. However, because of this, the girl's sauce was running out, and when they went to the elderly couple's store to buy more, they discovered. So there was none because a company bought all their stock for a festival. They will need to wait a week to buy more, and since there was little left, Yuki will have to ration it as she was sad. Hitoyoshi changed the subject and asked more about the sister, but Yuki doesn't have many memories of the past. The only thing she knows is that she is connected to that bell, which was a gift their mother gave to both of them. This is why she always carries the bell with her so her sister can find her. Additionally, Yuki is afraid of meeting her because she thinks there might be some resentment. Suddenly, two of the protagonist's friends appeared and mentioned a singer named Nasa who will be performing at the festival. So they told Yuki that Haisi was much happier since she showed up and talked about a rebellious phase. The boy had before Taige could say more hi, she stopped him, but the boy's autograph CD was about to fall into the sewer. Yuki managed to save the item with her bag, but the sauce in it fell to the ground, and the maid was very upset because of this that night. She had a nightmare with that sauce, saying it hated her when the protagonist entered the room. She told him about the nightmare, so he tried to reassure her, but Yuki said it wasn't the only dream she had in the following days. She had more nightmares, so she went to the protagonist's room asking to sleep there. However, Hitoyoshi would be studying for the exam through the night, but he said he could keep talking with her and until she fell asleep. Suddenly, Yuki said that the protagonist was a very nice person who mothers like, so she wanted to know if he had ever hated. Hoshi said he didn't know if he had ever hated anyone, but if he had to choose, he would say his father. They talked a bit more about it, and what the protagonist said made her think Suki said she would just study his studies if she stayed there. So she decided to leave, returning to her nightmare. We discovered that the Seis didn't just say it hated Yuki, but that she abandoned her sister and that people had her. We see that in the past, Yuki was a prodigy girl who already knew how to speak 15 languages. Her name was Maria, and she loved her parents very much. She had a very happy life until one day on her birthday, someone knocked on the door basically to kidnap the prodigy girl. Some people killed her parents, and Yuki's little sister was involved in this situation. The loss of her loved ones made her lose her emotions, and her obsession shifted from love for her parents to her sister. However, ever for having become an assassin, her younger sister began to hate her, and that's why she threw her bell away. Thus, the only thing left for her was her life as an assassin, and we see a bit of her mentor's appearance. Suddenly, the maid woke up thanks to Hitoyoshi. He was worried about her, and when Yuki saw him, she hugged the boy. She put him in bed and asked him to stay with her just a little while. The protagonist noticed she was trembling, and Yuki revealed she had a dream about the distant past. Even if she no longer remembers what that Hitoyoshi hugged her, and she was able to sleep the next day at school. Yuki revealed she didn't know about that festival. So the protagonist's friends told her when the girl discovered there was a competition at school, and that the winning class would get the sauce she likes. Yuki really wanted to win in the festival. Their grades also count, and since she didn't get a fail in grade, she will be able to participate. While meeting with Grace, Yuki asked more about the festival, but Grace mentioned that the maid handed in the test without a name, meaning she would get a 0 and wouldn't be able to participate too. Let her put her name on it. Grace had a task for the maid whenever she goes to a ramen restaurant. She is prohibited from bringing the sauce. However, when a strong wind hit them, Yuki's name appeared on the test, so Grace had nothing to do. So they thought the maid had done it, but in reality it was that pink-haired girl, as Yuki realized. She went to thank her and she blushed for being discovered, but even with a lot of embarrassment, the girl said her name is Naka and she knew a way for them to win the festival. Scene cuts to the girl training at her house, but just when she was about to be defeated, her brother appeared. His name is Tatsu, and they are heroes of the Heian style, so they must always stay strong, but even playing the serious brother role. We discover that he has a brother complex with Naka at the school festival. We find out that Tatsu is the student council president, and they will be playing cops and robbers, where he will be the cop and has to arrest everyone else. The only person he was worried about was Yuki, as he believed she might be an enemy of his family seeking revenge in the protagonist class. His group was running a cafe dressed as animals, and while they worked, Naka told the protagonist about her brother. Basically, she wants to win the festival, to show her brother that she is also strong, so when she knew the festival's special event would be cops and robbers, she explained the rules to them. She said each class must cheat 3 participants, but was interrupted by Tige dressed as Katsuda Sauce. He will be one of their class competitors along with Naka and Yuki, and the girl was afraid of facing her brother, but Yuki cheered her up, saying that together they would take down Tatsu. However, the student council president was listening to this conversation and got very angry with Yuki while having lunch. Hayashi commented to Teiga if he really would compete dressed as Katsuda Sauce, but the boy explained that yes, because the competition would be on TV, thus Hoshi was worried about Yuki appearing on TV, but before he could talk to her, his little sister appeared. They talked a bit, and when Naka was alone with Yuki, she asked if she could be her friend. Yuki accepted with a smile, and Naka was extremely happy, but when she left, Yuki asked Hitoyoshi what it meant to be someone's friend. Meanwhile, Naka had gone to spy on the competition's rules, but discovered something very bad with the competition about to start. We see that the singer Nasco is there, and when explaining the rules, they said that a captured thief could be exchanged for a free one, but there was a new rule. All participants had to wear the same costume from their class shop while playing back with Yuki's group. She was pondering what the protagonist said about friends and seeing Naka worried. She tried to reassure her, saying a friend is someone who extends their hand when their friends are in trouble. Additionally, she was wearing that costume to hide her face from the TV, fearing another assassin like Grace might appear with the competition starting. Tatsu's teammate surrendered, and he ran after the thieves without any difficulty. He was putting them in jail one by one, and in just 3 minutes only Yuki's group was left right away. Taiga was captured and Tatu went for Yuki, but remembering they were friends, Naka used a strange power and swapped places, with the maid being thrown away in her place. Thus, seeing her do this, Yuki remembered what Hitoyoshi said to her about friendship and thought about what being someone's friend meant to her. Yuki needed to escape for 2 minutes and couldn't let her identity be revealed on TV. Moreover, Tatsu smelled like katsuda sauce, which made the maid hungry, so while the boy was fighting as if he were in a battle for Nakayuki, just wanted to know what she would have for dinner. He started arguing with the maid, saying that having a friend was very important for his sister, so thinking a little more about what Hayashi said, Yuki threw Tatsu far away and ran towards the jail, thus reaching Naka. She said she had responded to her request without thinking, but now she understands a little better, because she also has someone special to her and would love to be that for the girl, so kneeling Yuki asked if Naka would like to be her friend. However, before she could answer, Tatsu arrived at the same time as the final whistle, and since both were in jail, the winner was the student council. President Yuki hadn't really understood the rules and was very confused, and to make matters worse, the TV crew was rushing to interview her. However, remembering that Yuki mentioned she couldn't be on TV, Naka used her powers once more and swapped Yuki, with Iggy making the maid end up in the boy's costume later after the two talked. Tatsu appeared to take his sister home. And we see that Naka was very happy to have made a friend during NASA's show. Hitoyoshi found Yuki on the school roof, and she said she was feeling something strange, especially with the festival ending with this. The protagonist explained to her that the girl just didn't want it to end because she was having fun. She was a bit sad for losing, but Hayashi said they would win next year, which was strange for her since she never thought that way. Knowing she could die at any moment, so we see how happy she was with this new life. Another day, Naka showed them her ninja skills, but she said her brother was much better than her. Added Naka wished she hadn't been born with her powers because she thinks it would be much better to have been normal. Something Yuki understands very well, so they decided to resolve this situation together, and the protagonist was really enjoying seeing the two getting along. But Grace appeared to ruin the moment since she was very close to him. The maid didn't like it and threw a knife in her direction. In reality, Grace was there to inform them that she would have to go to China for work for a while, and thought about looking for Yuki's sister. There with that, she left, but by commenting on something strange, she made Naka believe that Hitoyoshi and Yuki were dating. The protagonist tried to explain the situation without success, and the maid realized she never had anyone romantically interested in her. She also was never romantically interested in anyone because being alone was enough. But now it's different since the number of people she wants to protect is increasing. Every day when it started to snow, Hitoyoshi received a message from his father saying he would return to Japan at the beginning of the year. The next day, after playing a bit in the snow, Hitoyoshi received a call, and the situation seemed strange. After that, Yuki made a request to the boy. Then the scene cuts to Christmas Day with him going to the maid. She looked very pretty in regular clothes, and we discovered what she wanted to have a date with Hayashi. Basically, it was Riko who told Yuki to do this because she knew her brother was going through something difficult and said it would cheer him up. They walked like a couple, and the protagonist was very embarrassed while they were walking. Hitoyoshi made a comment that could be understood as if he was saying he liked her. So Yuki was very happy to hear that, even though she knew it wasn't what the boy really meant. Rewind a little, and we see her talking with the Riko to choose the outfit for the date. She was telling her brother about it, and they started talking about romantic feelings because Hayashi doesn't know if he is in love or not. To help him, Riko showed a love test on her phone to measure how much Yuki thought about him having nothing to lose. He agreed to take the test, and only the last answer, wasn't he? Yes, even though the boy lied, so their result of being together was 96%, which left him in shock. When you arrived, she decided to ask the maid the same questions from the test, and Yuki said yes to all of them. So doing her calculations, Riko understood that there was a 196% chance they would end up together. While they were having dinner, Riko kept talking about the embarrassing things her brother did in the past, so he tried to make her stop by kicking her under the table, but she wasn't reacting because of this. He realized that he was actually kicking Yuki. So they both became embarrassed, and Riko thought it was a romantic secret between the two, reflecting on what happened between him and Yuki. Hitoyoshi wondered what love was and remembered when he confessed to a girl. He used to play with a lot. However, she said that he didn't love her. He just wanted someone close to him. The protagonist knew she was right because he felt extremely lonely. Because of this, now that he is no longer lonely, he doesn't know if what he feels for Yuki is love when he woke up being next to Yuki. The protagonist tried to leave quietly, but the maid noticed him. She was in his room because she had been having many nightmares recently, but he couldn't sleep because he was embarrassed to be in the same bed with her, Yuki noticed. The boy was acting strange, but since it was cleaning day, she tried to focus only on that. The maid was excited to clean the floor because she wanted to redeem herself from her previous failure. However, she failed in the same way as before. When the protagonist saw her with her wet clothes, he was captivated and ran off to prepare a bath for Yuki. Seeing how strange the boy was acting, the maid went to talk to him, so thinking that Hitoyoshi was sad, she offered her lap. However, the protagonist said he wouldn't want to do that anymore because it was too embarrassing, but this made Yuki think he was tired of her. Because of this, she started crying, thinking it was her fault for not doing anything right. Hitoyoshi began to feel very bad for making Yuki cry, and didn't know what to do since then. Every time they made a mistake, she started crying a lot, and the protagonist didn't know how to fix it, because even though he tried hard not to make her sad, anything made her cry whether it was her fault or not. So on New Year's Eve, after collecting some towels, Yuki went to talk to Hayashi, but only found a note saying he would be out and would return later having nothing to do. She went for a walk with the dog, and after shopping, she returned home to find Hitoyoshi waiting for her with a special dinner, but this made her cry because she had also brought something for them to eat. During the night, the protagonist was thinking that his father would return the next day and ended up falling asleep. The next day, Riko went to her brother's house to invite the two to go out, but Hayashi wouldn't wake up at all. Additionally, Riko mentioned that today was her brother's birthday, and it was a tradition for them to go to the temple together. So not knowing it was the protagonist's birthday, Yuki started crying, and this impressed Riko because it was the first time she saw the maid do that. Yuki commented that something had changed inside her, and that's why she started crying out of nowhere. So she said it might be better not to go out when she went to see how the protagonist was. She saw a message from Maka inviting her to join her for the first temple visit. So even though she didn't know much about this tradition, Yuki decided to go. So basically, they go to the temple to pray and ask the gods for a good year. When they passed by some fortune papers, Yuki picked one which made her cry, believing it said that she and Hitoyoshi would part ways. She felt very bad, thinking that over time, the protagonist wouldn't need her anymore and would discard her, and thinking about this. She couldn't stop crying. Naka told her friend that she had also gone through times when she couldn't stop crying. That was when her mother passed away, but at the time she remembered something her mother had said, that people cry when sadness is overflowing in them, so they can cry as much as they need to. With this, Naka said she thought Yuki was only crying so much because all the sadness she had been holding was coming out all at once. So she told the maid to cry until all the sadness was gone, because eventually she would be able to smile again. So thus afterward, they prayed together, and Yuki asked to be able to stay beside the people she loves this year and every other year. Meanwhile, the protagonist was sleeping while his father was calling him well guys. On the other hand, as Yuki walks back home along with Naka, she tells her that it is each birthday today. Naka gets excited to hear that, and she tells Yuki that she should buy a good gift and then wait till they are both alone to give it to him. Yuki has no idea what she can give as a gift, and Naka asks her what Hito likes her. First, thought is the pork cutlet they get from the Katsuda store, but Naka says that it isn't special enough to be a birthday gift. Yuki thinks some more, and she realizes that Hito is fond of action figures. However, she doesn't know that they are called action figures and tells Naka that Hito likes dolls. Fortunately, Naka is a smart one, and she leads Yuki to a store selling action figures. She spots a toy that Hito already has and decides to buy it for him, thinking that he will like it. That tells her that this one is like a lottery and she needs to keep playing till she gets what she wants. Yuki immediately gets to work, but after a few rounds she only gets shiny ones and not the one that looks like Lucario on crack. She starts crying, thinking that she can't do anything right, and Naka struggles to calm her down. Just then, a dill comes there and suddenly asks Yuki if she would like to learn a spell to get the right toy from the Gagaki machine. Yuki is curious, and the man tells her that the first thing she should do is get rid of her tears, because evil spirits live in them, and eat away the confidence he keeps, talking like he's forgotten his schizo medicines today, and tells Yuki that she needs determination and killing an instinct to get the machine to listen to her well. She is so desperate that she believes him and practically threatens the jam machine that she will kill it if she doesn't get the desired toy. Naka and the man are shocked by her intensity, but surprisingly, this trick works as she gets Lucario on crack. Yuki is overjoyed and thanks the man who tells her that he was in a situation like this once when he was trying to buy his son a toy. So he couldn't leave her alone. He then walks away to do his shopping and Yuki finds him cool and kind. On the other hand, Ru wakes Hito up with a carrot chop to the head and asks, how long is he going to sleep on his birthday? She tells him that their dad is going to be home anytime now and before. So Hito can fully process that he sees Yuki's note that she is going to the shrine. Hito panics on reading that because he has not yet told Yuki about his dad, and Ru finds that absurd because he should have done that earlier since they loved together. These words suddenly send Hito in an onward spiral, and he says that communication is not easy. Even with family members, he still remembers the day his mom left and he couldn't ask his dad the reason. He couldn't even ask him the reason behind a scary expression on his face. And after that day, their relationship started to get strained. Soon his father went to work abroad and rarely came home, so he has never had a chance to ask him the reason for his divorce. Now that he thinks about introducing Yuki to him, he is afraid that his father will be angry at both of them. Suddenly he gets a text that snaps him out of his flashback. It's from Naka, who tells him to cheer Yuki because she drew a bad lot within seconds. Yuki returns to the house with her eyes swollen and decides to change into her maid outfit quickly. Hito immediately tells her that his dad is returning and he has no idea about her being an assassin. She tries giving her a suggestion, but he decides against it. He thinks that if he tries to hide Yuki from his dad, he will be trampling over her hard work to become normal, so he swears to protect her, no matter what his dad says. Riko starts fawning him and calling him the Rizzler, but asks him to say these things to Yuki's face for better results, just as they are bickering about it. Their dad comes home and he is the same, till Yuki met in the market. Riko runs to hug him, but Hayo is quite nervous and distant. So he then decides to tell his dad about Yuki, and by the time she comes downstairs, after changing, the dad has learned all the important bits about her. They sit down to talk while Hito prepares coffee, and his dad remarks that he knew Yuki's old master, who was a respectable person. They start talking about how he met her old master, who asked him to take her in after his death, and Hayo just listens to them, feeling that he is the only one being left out of the loop, just like during his parents' divorce. He starts feeling lonely and then realizes that there are things that he didn't know about his dad or Yuki. He suddenly understands that he is always assuming what the other person is thinking, and he has never directly confronted them to learn the truth. So meanwhile, his dad has finished his chats with Yuki, and he decides to go to Riko's place to talk to her. Mom Riko tells her that he should stay over to celebrate Shi's birthday, but he replies that Hitoyo doesn't even like his birthday. So he then congratulates him for turning 16, and then gives him a gift from him and his estranged wife. He says that after that he is going to attend a company meeting and then return abroad, which makes Hitoyo insecure that he won't be able to have a proper conversation with his dad. So even this time, as his dad and Riko sit in a cab, Hayo decides to overcome his hesitation, holds the cab's door, asking his dad permission to let Yuki stay here. His dad just stares at him and then asks what he wants to do, and Hito says that he wants Yuki to stay with him. His dad tells him to follow through his decision and says that he will explain things to his mom. He leaves with that, and Hayo feels better because it is the first time he was able to convey something to his dad behind him. Yuki is feeling giddy because Hito said that he wants her to stay, but before she can speak to him, he gets a call from his dad who asks him to hand over the phone to Yuki. He then tells Yuki that Hito has started to change because of her and asks her to keep looking after him in the future. Yuki is overwhelmed by her emotions, and after the call ends, she gathers all her courage to ask Hayo to see the night view with her. Just as he agrees, she lifts him in her arms and jumps to the rooftop, panting and clutching her heart. That can barely handle all the stress. As the sun starts to set, Yuki wishes him a happy birthday and gives him the action figure she bought for him, but to her shock, she had gripped it too tightly, breaking it. She is on the verge of crying again, but Hito understands her feelings. Now he realizes how tense she must have been when he was trying to avoid an honest conversation with her, and he no longer wants to do that. He decides to be honest about his feelings. So with her and tells her that this action figure is from his favorite show in his childhood back. When his parents were together, he tells her about his insecurities and how he has been avoiding his father ever since his mom left, and wonders if he can patch up their relationship. He then tells Yuki that he doesn't want his relationship with her to spoil because of a lack of communication, and that is why he wants to live like they are a family who shares everything together. Hearing his words remind Yuki of her family, and she starts crying again, but this time they are tears of joy. She asks Hito if she can really become his family, and he impatiently tells her that only she can do that because he likes her. He eagerly awaits her response, and when she tells him that she likes him too, he doesn't sense any romantic feelings behind it, and it is his turn to cry when he returns to his room. Hito breaks down into tears, thinking that even though he worked up the courage to confess his feelings to Yuki, all he got in return was a heartbreak. However, he is overlooking the fact that Yuki is a slow learner when it comes to matters of the heart. She is cutting cabbage in the kitchen when suddenly Hito's confession pops up in her mind. She starts recalling his smiling face again and again and suddenly clutches her heart at some feelings. She is not familiar with starts surfacing inside, and with that we conclude this amazing anime. To follow more anime, please subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell.